Share the show with your friends. Let's get started with this first story. I'm going to start here, actually, and not necessarily jump in with the violent photos, but this is part of the same story. White House refuses to condemn activist group who posted home addresses of Supreme Court justices. We have another story out of Maryland and Portland, and there are these pregnancy centers where activists went and smashed up the windows and damaged them, ransacked them. These are places where they try and talk to women who are pregnant. They're called crisis pregnancy centers. Well, activists who are associated with the pro-abortion side of things, I guess, just hate them. And so they went and vandalized and tagged them up. I think seeing stuff like this reach the highest levels, like the White House, where we learned that Supreme Court justices had their addresses posted. We've already seen people lose their lives. It shows that we're reaching this very extreme level of hyperpolarization. So, Daryl, I don't know if you've been following any of the current news about the Roe v. Wade stuff. I mean, things have been kind of crazy over the past couple of years, or, Bill, if you've been following this stuff. But I think we just get started with this, the modern hyperpolarization, and I'm curious what your thoughts are with, far left, as they would call it, or far right, people fighting in the streets. Or how about just this right here, pro-abortion groups smashing up windows and vandalizing buildings?
Well, that's been going on for quite some time. About probably 30 years ago, there was an anti-abortion person who was going up and down the East Coast bombing abortion clinics. And he got arrested, I think, down in Florida. Another one murdered an abortion doctor in Florida, Dr. Gunn. The guy who bombed the clinics lived right in Maryland. And I remember I was in bed one night at my girlfriend's house, and there was thunder and lightning, and she lived right up against the woods. And we thought a tree had been hit by lightning because the whole ground rocked, things fell off the walls, everything, 4 o'clock in the morning. And we jumped up out of bed, and then, still thunder and lightning and raining outside. So at 7:30 that morning, things had died down. We came outside. All the neighbors were out. We're all looking in the woods for this fallen tree. And this was on a Sunday morning, about 4 a.m. It wasn't discovered until Monday in Annapolis, Maryland, that that guy had bombed the abortion clinic on the other side of the woods.
Wow. How far away from your house was it?
From her house. It was, less than a quarter mile.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It feels like there are political issues that are kind of impossible in a sense. Like when we talk with people who are pro-life, because we have, Seamus on the show periodically, and we have a lot of conservatives, and they're staunchly pro-life. Their view of this is, for one, most reasonable people, most people, and particularly like all reasonable people, think bombing an abortion clinic is wrong and killing people is wrong. But you have moral questions that arise. If the pro-life side genuinely believes that babies are being murdered, then they're trying to stop murder. Now, how do you solve for a problem like that if you can't convince someone that it's wrong to bomb a clinic? You know what I mean? Like if they believe in their heart of hearts that they're saving babies, I don't know if you can convince them not to commit these acts.
Well, I think that if they're convinced that you're murdering babies, and perhaps they're separating babies from adults. So in their minds, I'm not agreeing with them, I'm saying, but in their minds, they're murdering the people who are murdering babies.
Right.
So therefore, they're preventing the murder of babies.
Or of just destroying.
That's their justification.
Right. It's like, this is where things are getting interesting because we talked about this yesterday. Louisiana has advanced a bill that will make abortion homicide, that will legally list it as homicide. So this is a political line that is as hard as a line can be, because once that line is crossed, that means you have serious questions about whether or not someone is justified in using force to stop an abortion doctor from committing an abortion. If the act of abortion is homicide, then there's a legal justification to prevent that from happening. That's if it's codified. Regardless of the law, though, there are people who already believe that to be the case.
I thought the conversation you guys had down in Nashville, sort of theorizing about future technology that could potentially enable a fetus to live at a much earlier age. Like, that is a fascinating philosophical conversation that I think people just need to be willing to have, because that is what it puts it into context. It makes it less emotional.
Well, the fascinating thing is we had this conversation where I basically asked if there was a way that from the moment of conception, a baby could be taken from the womb and put into an artificial womb, a machine that would allow it to live, should we then ban abortion to the extent that the baby is killed and only allow procedures to terminate a pregnancy if the baby is allowed to survive? The issue with that, I suppose, is everyone on the right basically says like, oh, okay, that's an interesting question. Maybe separating from the mother might be bad. But I've asked a handful of people on the left and they say, meh, who cares? No, I don't know. Why not? Whatever. So not to get into a technological discussion, my question, I guess, is what I'm trying to get into is, are there issues we can't mend? Are there just ideas that we're never going to be able to rectify amongst each other?
I believe so. I mean, we can come close, but there are always going to be issues that will crop up. And then, you have what you just proposed there as a possible viable solution. But when you have things that are that extreme on the right, that extreme on the left, you're not going to change those people necessarily, but what you can do is uplift the middle. When you have that extreme polarization, then what you want to do is strengthen the middle, pull the middle up. And in doing so, you will pull some of those people on the left and some of those people on the right into the middle as you do that, sort of like a vortex.
Yeah.